साजननी मातृ गुरु प्रकृति था भक्ति भावेन नित्यान्त प्रणमामि साई सुत वन्दामहे वायुमहो वन्दामहे शेषासुदे भक्त वृंदा। जय मां।
फोन 5 मिनट समवेत जॉब Shri Mataji ki Jai.
Chapter 9,
Bharat
The
Lord
Turning Point.
Follow.
Part 1. On 7th April 1950, Shobhama, along with just a few of her devotees, boarded the Tufan mail from Howrah station to go to Haridwar for Kumbh Mela. Traveling with her were Shantimoy Biswas, Sharat Chandra Roy, Rukmini Ballabh Sen, Ramkrishna Gopal Mukherjee, Chinmoy Dasgupta, Beena, and Suresh Dev. After attending Purna Kumbho in Haridwar, this group would embark upon a 3-month journey of pilgrimage on foot to some important shrines in the Himalayas. They had been planning for this trip for almost a year. During one of the many planning sessions for this trip, Mamoni had suddenly turned towards Krishna, who was listening with a wistful expression in her eyes, and had asked her, Krishna, do you want to come with us? Krishna had replied in a tear-drenched voice, You are not going to take me, so why ask? Mamoni replied, You missed a great opportunity. So often have I said to you all, in life there are moments when you can ask anything and it would be granted. So always be positive. This was one such moment. If you had replied a simple yes, I would have had to take you somehow. I would have had to organize your travel with us. But you wasted the moment. However, I had expressed my desire to take you for the Himalayan pilgrimage, so it will be granted. Not this time, but I promise you, I will take you there, even if the opportunity arises after years. 6 years later, when Mamoni decided to take another group of disciples with her for the Himalayan Char Dham pilgrimage, the first name she wrote on her list was that of Krishna. As the train journey began, everyone was full of excitement. After all, they were going to the Kumbh Mela in the company of their Guruji. But also lurking deep in their minds was an unidentified fear, because Mamuni had told them this would be no ordinary journey and she was going for something special. As they traveled, she explained to them what Kumbh Mela was all about. She spoke about the two different layers in Purna Kumbho. One that everyone gets to see, the crowds of people congregating in the hope of washing their sins in the holy waters of the Ganges. And the other is the spiritual aspect of the Mela. People only get to see many ascetics congregating, but away from all eyes, meetings are organized for sadhus, sages from all disciplines and sects of Hinduism, who assemble from all parts of the country, including Tibet. The true essence of Kumbh lies in the upsurge of spiritual power that is activated by their combined presence and the change of destiny that their meetings signal. She said, Purna Kumbh happens every 12 years. If you look back in history, you will find across the countries the course of history changed with each Purna Kumbh. Dr. Suresh Dev, who was renowned for his exceptional memory, tried to recollect and added Second World War had started a few months after the Kumbh Mela in 1938. The earlier Purna Kumbh Mela was in 1926 and it triggered worldwide hatred and in India, the beginning of communal riots, starting with the murder of Swami Shraddhananda of Arya Samaj. A little further back in history, 1914 was the year when the First World War started. Mamoni added, you can keep going back in history and you will find every 12 years there is a major socio-political change, almost like a course correction by destiny. Chinodi wanted to know what this Kumbh Mela would bring, and Mamoni said it would bring an illusion of peace. Amidst these conversations, Mamoni very casually also mentioned that she would embark on a new lifestyle from the Akhoy Tritiya day. Akhoy Tritiya is considered a very auspicious date in the Indian lunar calendar, and it is believed that any work started on Akhoy Tritiya brings long-lasting success. She said she had confided in Bhaida her plans, and he was so excited that he would be accompanying the group with Dima, Shunitidi, Purnachandra Roy and his wife, Shubhodh Ghosh, Digendra Mohan Palik, Shadhu Baba, and Aniruddha Datta Gupta, Akhay Babu's youngest son, who were expected to arrive a week earlier, the day before the Bengali New Year on 14th April. Mamoni also said that till Akhoy Tritiya, she would not use oil or comb, but keep her hair tied as a knot at the top of her head. She further added that she had no plans to return to Calcutta after the Himalayan journey of pilgrimage, but hastened to assure them that she was not planning to cut off her ties with Calcutta. Calcutta would remain an important center for her socio-religious activities for all times in future. In between these talks about her plans for the future, she also talked about the many great sages who would be coming to Haridwar, not only to take dips in the Ganges during Kumbh Mela, but also to participate in the meetings that would take place away from the glare of publicity. She promised to show some of them. Later, they realized the excitement Mamoni had generated by talking about the meeting of the great sages was a ploy to stop her companions from speculating about what was to happen on Akhoy Tritiya day. By the time they reached Haridwar, the city was already crowded with pilgrims and holy men. Mamoni suggested they take a few rickshaws to reach their place of stay because in a rickshaw, it is easy to see people walking around and meeting people was an important part of participation in Kumbh Mela. Beena, who was traveling with Mamoni in one rickshaw, noticed every now and then totally unknown persons smiled at Mamoni as though they were old acquaintances. Sometimes their eyes fleetingly met and exchanged messages. Sometimes Mamoni herself would draw attention towards a person and give some idea about the person's true identity. This undercurrent of familiarity with totally unknown persons happened with many throughout their stay in Haridwar and almost every time they were moving around. One afternoon, they were casually walking along the Ganges when Mamoni suddenly drew their attention towards a man on the opposite pavement. He was short and had thick dreadlocks. His complexion was very dark and the legs looked very swollen as though he was suffering from filaria. Though it was not cold, he had covered himself with a black woolen blanket. But most unusual was the oboe-like musical instrument hanging from his neck. He was returning from the direction of Brahmakundo. As soon as he saw Mamoni, he stopped momentarily, looked at her from the corner of his eyes, smiled, and quickly walked away. When Mamoni drew attention to his swollen legs, Bina suddenly remembered that in Calcutta, Mamoni had talked about a special person who would come in the disguise of a filaria patient. He would be the chief motivator of the Kumbh Mela. Bina was about to ask who the man on the street was when Mamuni urged everyone to quickly walk up to Brahmakundo and take a dip. No one was prepared for a bath in the river, but Mamuni insisted they at least take one dip. Later, as they were walking back in wet clothes, she explained that many saints and even gods from heaven had come to take a dip in the Brahmakundo at that time, and the water had become spiritually very pure. She added, that particular person whom you saw, he too was returning after taking a bath. She then identified him as Lord Vishnu, as he is worshipped in Goa, and told them they would be able to see him every now and then throughout the Mela days, but warned them not to show any excitement or try to go near him. When she was asked how a normal human body is created for gods to descend on earth on such special occasions, Mamuni explained that saints and sages are identified who give parts of their own body to create the human form. Once the work entrusted to perform through that body is completed, it withers away within a few days. Bina asked, do the saints get back the parts of their body they had donated? Mamuni replied, not all of it can be returned because some amount is lost in human contact, some eroded while performing the duties. Bina remembered Mamuni had said she had given a part of her heart for construction of the body of Vishwanath, Shiva, who was entrusted with similar responsibilities during the Rath Yatra of 1948. And since then, she had been diagnosed with some complications in her heart. Monida wanted to know why that huge oboe was hanging down his neck. Mamoni explained, it indicates the period of devastation and destruction that would happen in the future. Shantida wanted to know whether the devastation would be caused by nature or would it be man-made. Mamuni replied, both. Everyone wanted to know when the disaster would fall upon them. Mamuni laughed and said, it is still a long time ahead, not in the lifetime of any of them. But preparation for the devastation starts from this Kumbh Mela. Mamuni further explained, for all important religious congregations like Kumbh Mela, Rath Yatra, etc., some powerful god is always present like a chief guest, and he ensures all the spiritual goals set for the occasion get fulfilled. That evening, while discussing the impact of a dip in the Ganges at Brahmakundo during Kumbh Mela, one of them asked Mamuni, how much truth is there in the oft publicized statement that all the effects of bad karma is washed away by one dip in the Ganges during Kumbh Mela? In reply, Mamuni said, do you know, that was exactly the question Parvati had asked Shiva. She then narrated a story from Shiva Purana. Once, Parvati was watching lakhs of people congregating on the banks of Ganges in Haridwar, waiting for a dip in the river. Worried to see the swelling numbers, Parvati asked Shiva, when all these people bathe in the Ganges and achieve moksha, as I have heard about the spiritual consequence of Kumbh Snan or bath in the Brahmakund during Kumbh Mela, then what happens to creation? Shiva laughed and said, don't worry. These lakhs of people you see enjoying a dip in the Ganges and hoping to be cleansed of all bad karma consequences, don't actually have any faith or interest in moksha. Most of them have come to enjoy a holiday in the name of pilgrimage to Kumbh. They have not come with any belief in the ritual of bathing during Kumbh. Unless you have faith in what you're doing, you can't get the blessing that would cleanse the bad karma. Parvati was suitably shocked and asked, "You mean to say they have not come with the faith or trust in the ritual of bathing, and they think bathing in the Ganges during Kumbh is some sort of fun or frenzy?" Shiva agreed, but said, "Let's test how many come with the conviction that Kumbh Snan would clear all their bad karma and lead them to the path of moksha. How many are truly worthy of Kumbh Snan?" Shiva devised an interesting test for Parvati to understand the attitude and faith of devotees in Kumbh Mela. They came on earth and Shiva fell on the pavement near the Brahma Kunda as though dead, and Parvati sat next to his body, wailing pathetically for help. When people passing by asked her what the problem was, she said she was alone and needed help to cremate her husband's body. Many people, after returning after a dip in Brahmakundo, saw Parvati crying and came forward to help. But as soon as they heard Parvati saying, "Be careful, only a person whose body and soul is truly cleansed of all bad karma can touch this body. Otherwise, the result is instantaneous death." One by one, everyone stepped back. After a long time, came a young man after a long time, a young man came and he too asked the same question and heard the same answer and the same warning. Unperturbed, he replied, "Just give me a few minutes. I was going to the Brahmakunda for a dip. Let me complete the ritual and cleanse my body and soul. Then I will come and help you to cremate this body." Shiva sat up and smiled at Parvati, saying, "Are you now relieved of your worry about Kumbh Snan and what happens to creation?" Mamoni added, "I told you this story only to emphasize the importance of faith. True faith is very rare. In fact, I would say faith is a state of mind. Complete faith in God's way with life comes as you cross different stages of sadhana. One of them asked, "You always say everything is predestined. That means how much faith I can achieve in this life is also predestined. Then why do I need to do sadhana?" Mamoni had a hearty laugh hearing the question and answered, "Predestined does not mean the end result. How much sadhana you will have to do is also predestined. Even this conversation among us today is predestined. As my Guruji Babaji Maharaj used to say, even when a bird sings, that tune and that moment of singing is predestined. But everyone, animals and humans, everything in nature has been given a motivating force which we call Purushkar. That is the driving force for all our actions and thoughts. That force of nature makes us desire and reject and makes us motivated to engage ourselves in different kinds of activities. Because the future is shrouded by a veil of ignorance, we feel we are doing what we desire to do. There is no shortcut in nature. There is no shortcut in the nature and path of karma because it is predestined. Jai Ma.
বনানি
আসুন এইমাত্র আমরা শুনছিলাম মা কিভাবে সন্ন্যাস নিলেন এবং সেটা নিয়েছিলেন কিন্তু আমাদের জন্য, তার সন্তানদেরই কল্যাণের জন্য। কাজে আসুন সকলে আমরা সকৃতজ্ঞ চিত্তে আমাদের শ্রী শ্রী মায়ের চরণে ও শ্রী শ্রী গুরু পরম্পরার সমীপে প্রার্থনা জানাই, তোমরা এসো, অবতীর্ণ হও আমাদের পরিত্রাণ করো এই ভয়ঙ্কর অন্ধকার থেকে। আমাদের সকল অন্যায় অপরাধ ক্ষমা করে তোমাদের কৃপার উপযুক্ত করে তোলো। জয় জয়।
মিষ্টি মিষ্টি
আনমিউট করো, আনমিউট।
যাচ্ছে না।
মিষ্টি মিষ্টি
আনমিউট করো নিজেকে।
ও শুনতে পাচ্ছে না।
আনমিউট আছে, মাইক্রোফোন তো আনমিউট আছে। মিষ্টি বোধহয় লিঙ্কটা হারিয়ে গেছে।
হ্যালো
হ্যাঁ
হ্যালো,
ঠিক আছে,
শোনা
ঠিক
যাচ্ছে?
আছে। হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
আমি বন্দনা থেকে শান্তি ভাইয়েরই লেখা একটা গান করছি, সবাই সেই গানটা জানো। আর যখনই মামনি সবাইকে নিয়ে তীর্থযাত্রায় যেতে সেই গানটাই আমরা গাই। তাই গুরু, অমর তীর্থযাত্রী মোরা।
বাহ।
যাই গুরু। অমর তীর্থযাত্রী মোরা, মাতৃগুরু কর্ণধার। অমর তীর্থযাত্রী মোরা, মাতৃগুরু কর্ণধার। মৃত্যু পথে অমর হব, তৃপ্তি পাব পূর্ণতার। মৃত্যু পথে অমর হব, তৃপ্তি পাব পূর্ণতার। অমর তীর্থযাত্রী মোরা, মাতৃগুরু কর্ণধার। দুর্গমে মায় আছেন সাথী, দুর্যোগে দান প্রদীপ ভাতি। দুর্গমে মায় আছেন সাথী, দুর্যোগে দান প্রদীপ ভাতি। অন্ধকারে উজ্জ্বলিয়া সঙ্গে থাকেন অনিবার। অন্ধকারে উজ্জ্বলিয়া সঙ্গে থাকে অনিবার। অমর তীর্থযাত্রী মোরা, মাতৃগুরু কর্ণধার। অমর তীর্থযাত্রী মোরা, মাতৃগুরু কর্ণধার। চিত্ত মোদের আনন্দিতে, নৃত্যে ওঠে ছন্দে মেতে। চিত্ত মোদের আনন্দিতে, নৃত্যে ওঠে ছন্দে মেতে। মায়ের ভরায় আশীর্বাদে, নাই রে বিধি ভাবনায় আর। মায়ের ভরায় আশীর্বাদে, নাই রে বিধি ভাবনায় আর। তরঙ্গ ঢেউ সিন্ধু জলে, উত্তরিব মাতৃ বলে। তরঙ্গ ঢেউ সিন্ধু জলে, উত্তরিব মাতৃ বলে। তুমি স্নারে রাত্রি শেষে, পূর্ণ হবে অভিশাপ। তুমি স্নারে রাত্রি শেষে, পূর্ণ হবে অভিশাপ। অমর তীর্থযাত্রী মোরা, মাতৃগুরু কর্ণধার। অমর তীর্থযাত্রী মোরা, মাতৃগুরু কর্ণধার। জয় মা, জয় মা।
জয় মা। আমি ওই রিডিং পার্ট 2 থেকেই কন্টিনিউয়েশনে পড়ছি। On the Bengali New Year day, after Dima, Bhaida, and all others from Calcutta arrived, Mamoni disclosed some details of her plan for Akshaya Tritiya day. She would formally take sannyas from Sri Krishna Das ji. The ceremony will happen in his ashram, Vasudev Math in Rishikesh. Sri Krishna Das ji, she elaborated, was a very close disciple of Shantadas ji Babaji Maharaj. And Shantadas ji had selected him as his successor to take on the responsibility of his ashrams after him. However, a few years after the passing away of Shantadas ji, Krishna Das ji had felt the administrative work of running the ashram in Vrindavan and Shivpur, Howrah, was interfering with his own sadhana. And he chose to renounce the responsibility and settled in Rishikesh, where he has built a small ashram. Mamoni further explained that she does not require to take sannyas for any personal gain or achievement, but it is linked to her setting up of the ashram in Varanasi that she has planned. She wanted her disciples to be accepted into the Nimbarka Sampradaya, and her taking up the life of sannyasin as a disciple of Sri Krishna Das Ji will keep away all controversies about their spiritual lineage. Shobhama took her sannyas from Sri Krishna Das Ji in Vasudev Math on the morning of Akshaya Tritiya. The date by English calendar was 20th of April 1950. From Bina's diary, we get a detailed description of all that had happened that day. She writes, "We reached Rishikesh a day before. Krishna Das Ji had already made all the arrangements needed for the sannyas ceremony. Since there was no important work pending, Mamoni sent us to visit Lakshman Jhula, Swargodar, etc., places of tourist interest in Rishikesh. We went, but in our minds, only one question continued to reverberate. What changes will happen to our easy relationship with Mamoni from tomorrow? Will the change be immediate or gradual? Some irreversible distancing will take effect. Sannyas means severing all social relationships. After tomorrow, there will be nothing to hold her back from going to Benares. But what kind of ashram life is she planning? Will there be any place for householders like us in her ashram? No one, including Dima, had any answer to these questions. Next morning at 5 a.m., Bina and Shantida accompanied Mamoni and Krishnadas Ji to the Ganges. Mamoni swam and reached the center of the river, then stood inside the flowing waters meditating for a long time. Later, she explained she was performing some special rituals that are done traditionally before the initiation of sannyas. At the end of the meditation, she sang in a loud voice, "Jai Bharat." Later, after reaching Haridwar, she had explained she was looking forward to the future when India will rise as a great nation. When Sharadda pointed out, India is now an independent new nation, she smiled and said, "This is temporary. The boundaries of the subcontinent will change. Pakistan will not exist." Many years later, when Pakistan was forced to surrender the East Pakistan region in 1972, we had all asked if this was the change as she indicated in 1950. But Mamoni said, formation of Bangladesh was just the beginning. Lot more will happen in the future, and had repeated, Pakistan will cease to exist. Describing Mamoni's sannyas ceremony, Bina writes, "We dressed her in a new sari, decorated her forehead with sandalwood. Then for the last time, we touched her feet, the feet of our dear mother. And at the auspicious hour of 10 a.m., with tears blurring our eyes, we led her to the puja room in Sri Krishna Das Ji's ashram. We all were apprehensive about her sannyas, especially what it would mean for us. But Mamoni was all smiles. Looking radiantly happy, she entered the puja room. When we stood waiting just outside, Krishnadas ji had told us to blow the conch shell 3 times as soon as he signaled. At 10:30, Krishnadas ji indicated that the conch shell should now be blown. As soon as we started blowing, suddenly from nowhere, a group of sadhus appeared singing Jai Sita Ram and remained in the ashram till the sannyas ceremony had ended. The entire ceremony took about an hour. At 11 a.m., when Mamoni came out of the puja room, the only change her companions could see was a big tulsi wood locket tied with a string on her neck and a more pronounced tilak on her forehead. Beena felt she seemed more dignified, and despite her warm, friendly smile, she was looking a little detached. Everyone touched her feet and did pranam. But as soon as Dima went forward, Mamoni stopped her, saying sternly, "From today, the only person to whom I will do pranam will be you. You will no longer touch my feet." The sannyas ceremony was followed by a feast attended by a large number of sadhus. Krishnadas ji was so overwhelmed by the ceremony and the miraculous coincidences that happened throughout the day that he kept saying his own happiness was only comparable to what he had felt on the day of his own sannyas. He kept comparing himself with Keshav Bharti, Chaitanya Dev's guru, saying that no one knew about Keshav Bharti until Chaitanya Dev took Diksha from him and made him immortal. Mamoni, with her companions, returned to Haridwar in the afternoon, and on the way, she showed them a small cottage in which she had stayed in 1947 winter for over 3 months. Her companions then were, at that time, were Beena and Jatindranath Majumdar and his young daughter Arati. Jatindranath Majumdar was an officer in the railways, had become her disciple through his association with Sharadda. When he had met Mamoni, he was going through a very tragic phase in his life. He had lost his wife after a brief illness and was left with a 9-year-old daughter, Arati, and did not know how to deal with the situation. Mamoni had invited him and his daughter to spend some time with her while they were trying to come to terms with their tragedy. Talking about the trip, Mamoni narrated one amongst an amusing incident that she had disappeared for quite a while. Talking about the trip, Mamoni narrated one amusing incident when she had disappeared for quite a while. And Beena added, "That evening, we were getting ready for a visit to Brahmakund when Arati suddenly started throwing tantrums about which pair of shoes she should wear. While I was trying to reason with her without any warning, Mamoni went missing. Distraught with worry, we forgot about Arati and her tantrums and started looking for Mamoni. We first searched around the house, then walked all the way to Brahmakund, looked in other places where Mamoni liked going, but she was nowhere to be found. Arati forgot about her shoe and ran around with us in search of Mamoni. Haridwar in winter is like a deserted city, and people laughingly commented that even a cow or a stray dog is never lost. And you have lost a whole human being. After searching for an hour, we decided to take a final look at Brahmakund, when a totally unknown sadhu came up and added, "Are you looking for Mataji? She has reached the cottage." We rushed back and found Mamoni standing at the door. When we asked her why she had gone away without telling anyone, Mamoni laughed and said, "You were so busy, you were too busy with Arati and forgot your Guruji is waiting. I felt neglected, and so I went off to Dev Prayag to meet an eminent sage." In the course of conversation that evening, Aniruddha Dattagupta, Akshay Babu's son, wanted to know which is the right pronunciation, Haridwar as Bengalis pronounce, or Haridwar as the people from North India pronounce the name. Mamoni explained, "This place is the starting point of pilgrimage to both Badrinath, where the presiding deity is Hari or Vishnu, and Kedarnath, where the temple is dedicated to Har or Shiva. The word Dwar means door, Hardwar or Haridwar. Both are correct. One means the door to reach Hari and the other door to reach Har." They were all discussing their own feelings about the sadhus who had come to the feast in the morning. Many of them had imposing personalities, and some had very aristocratic features. Dima asked, "What makes these men leave the comforts of home and live in such frugal style in the remote caves of mountains?" Mamoni had answered, "It is difficult to put in words, to seek it is difficult to put in words the powerful urge that transform a mind to renounce everything and live a life dedicated to seeking the ultimate truth of life. But it is not without motivation, and that motivation can be as ordinary as seeking to become powerful. Only a few look for complete knowledge and want to achieve the perfect equilibrium of mind, body, and soul. These mountains have witnessed for centuries men willing to give up their lives for a glimpse of that divine power which had motivated them to come here. But the spiritual power of these mountains is very difficult to absorb, while it is equally difficult to abandon the power of these mountains. But the spiritual power of these mountains is very difficult to absorb, while it is equally difficult to abandon and return to society. Beena writes, Ramkrishnada and Sharodda both asked her, "Will you show us some of the spiritual wealth hidden in the Himalayas as we began our pilgrimage?" Mamoni laughed. She laughed out loud, but it seemed our Himalayan trip will indeed be magical. Joy Ma.
হরি হরয় নম কৃষ্ণ যাদবায় নম হরি হরয় নম কৃষ্ণ যাদবায় নম যাদবায় মাধবায় কেশবায় নম গোপাল গোবিন্দ রাম শ্রী মধুসূদন গিরিধারী গোপীনাথ মদন মোহন জয় হংস ভগবান সনকাদি ভগবান জয় নারদ ভগবান নিম্বার্ক ভগবান জয় দ্বাদশাচার্য ভট্ট অষ্টাদশ জয় দশম দেবাচার্য দ্বাস একাদশ শ্রী সন্ত দাসজির করি চরণ বন্দন শ্রী সন্ত দাসজির করি চরণ বন্দন
যাহা হইতে বিঘ্ন নাশ অভীষ্ট পূরণ, এই গুরু পরম্পরা যার মোরা তার দাস। তা সবার পদ রেণু মোর পঞ্চগ্রাস, তাদের চরণ সেবী ভক্ত সনে বাস। জনমে জনমে হয় এই অভিলাষ, নিম্বার্ক সম্প্রদায় যবে ব্রজে কইলেন বাস। রাধা কৃষ্ণ নিত্য লীলা করিলেন প্রকাশ, ব্রজে রাধা কৃষ্ণ নিত্য লীলা করিলেন প্রকাশ। আনন্দে বল হরি ভজ বৃন্দাবন, মনের আনন্দে বল হরি ভজ বৃন্দাবন। শ্রী গুরু বৈষ্ণব পদে মজাইয়া মন, শ্রী গুরু বৈষ্ণব পাদ পদ্ম করিয়াস। নাম সংকীর্তন করেন শ্রী মায়ের দাস, নাম সংকীর্তন করেন শ্রী মায়ের দাস, নাম সংকীর্তন করেন শ্রী মায়ের দাস। হরে কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে হরে, হরে রাম 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 হরে হরে। হরে কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে হরে, হরে রাম 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 হরে হরে। হরে কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে হরে, হরে রাম 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 হরে হরে। হরে কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে হরে, হরে রাম 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 হরে হরে। হরে কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে হরে, হরে রাম 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 হরে হরে। হরে কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে হরে, হরে রাম 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 হরে হরে। জয় মা।
জয় মা জয় মা জয় জয় মা, 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 জয় মা জয় মা জয় জয় মা। श्री माता जी की जय, श्री माता जी की जय।
ওম শ্রী গুরবে নমঃ। ওম শ্রী শ্রী গুরু পরম্পরায় নমঃ। শ্রী হংস ভগবান কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী সনকাদি ভগবান কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী নারদ ভগবান কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী নিম্বার্ক ভগবান কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী শ্রীনিবাস আচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী বিশ্বাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী পুরুষোত্তমাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী বিলাসাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী স্বরূপাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী মাধবাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী বলভদ্রাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী পদ্মাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী শ্যামাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী গোপালাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী কৃপাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী দেবাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী সুন্দর ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী পদ্মনাভ ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী উপেন্দ্র ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
জয়
শ্রী রামচন্দ্র ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
জয়
শ্রী বামন ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী কৃষ্ণ ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী পদ্মাকর ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী শ্রবণ ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী ভূরি ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
জয়
শ্রী মাধব ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্যাম ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী গোপাল ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী বলভদ্র ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী গোপীনাথ ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী কেশব ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী গাঙ্গল ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী কেশব কাশ্মীরি ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী শ্রী ভট্টাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী হরিব্যাস দেবাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
জয়
শ্রী সভুরাম দেবাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী কর্ণহর দেবাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
জয়
শ্রী পরমানন্দ দেবাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী চতুর চিন্তামণি দেবাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী মোহন দেবাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
জগন্নাথ দেবাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী মাখন দেবাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী হরি দেবাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী মথুরা দেবাচার্য কি জয়,
জয়
শ্রী স্বামী শ্যামল দাস জি কি জয়,
জয়
श्री स्वामी हंसदास जी की जय,
জয়
श्री स्वामी हीरादास जी की जय,
জয়
श्री स्वामी मोहनदास जी की जय,
জয়
श्री स्वामी नैनादास जी की जय,
জয়
श्री स्वामी इंद्रदास जी की जय,
জয়
श्री स्वामी बजरंगदास जी की जय,
জয়
श्री स्वामी गोपालदास जी की जय,
জয়
श्री स्वामी देवदास जी की जय,
জয়
श्री 108 स्वामी रामदास काटेवा जी महाराज जी की जय,
জয়
श्री 108 स्वामी संतदास बाबाजी महाराज जी की जय,
জয়
জয়
अनंत श्री शोभा माता जी की जय,
জয়
জয়
श्री श्री माता जी की
জয়
জয়
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 श्री माता जी की जय।
জয়
আগে ক্ষমা প্রার্থনাটা করে দাও।
বনানী কি করছে না আমি করব?
তুমি করবে?
না তুমি করো, করে দে, আমার একটু কষ্ট হচ্ছে পড়তে।
ও আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে ঠিক আছে। তমেব মাতা চ পিতা তমেব, তমেব বন্ধুশ্চ সখা তমেব, তমেব বিদ্যা দ্রবিণং তমেব, তমেব সর্বং মম দেব দেব। আবাহনং ন জানামি ন জানামি বিসর্জনম, পূজাঞ্চৈব ন জানামি ত্বং গতি পরমেশ্বর ओम मंत्रहीनं क्रियाहीनं भक्तिहीनं यदच्युतं तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव दीनं मां प्रसाद कुरु यदक्षरं परिभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं च यत् भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव प्रसीद परमेश्वर। ओम अपराध सहस्राणि क्रियन्ते अहर्निशं मया तानि सर्वाणि मे देव क्षमस्व गुरुदेव दुर्लभो विषयत्याग दुर्लभं तत्त्वचिन्तनं दुर्लभा सहजावस्थाः सद्गुरोः करुणां विना। ओम अपराध सहस्र संकुलं पतितं भीम भवान बोधरे अगतिं शरणागतं हरे कृपया केवलम् आत्मसात् कुरु। ओम इतः पूर्वं प्राणो बुद्धि देहो धर्माधिकारतः जाग्रत स्वप्न सुषुप्तावस्थासु मनसा वाचा हस्ताभ्यां पद्भ्यामुदरेण शिष्णा यत्स्मृतं यद्यदुक्तं यत्कृतं तत्सर्वं ब्रह्मार्पणं भवतु स्वाहा। मां मदीयं सकलं सम्यक् श्रीकृष्णाय समर्पयामि। ओम तत्सत्। ओम हरि ओम।
আজকের মতো প্রার্থনা সভা সমাপ্ত।